What's up, everybody? It's your friend Reverend Mayhem. So we're going to be going over a Talisman spell that I designed, and I'm just going to walk you through the steps and putting it together and how I got to what I'm doing. The types of spells that I usually do are not in the sense that they're not for gain. I rarely, actually, I've never done a spell to gain, especially in the material world. The way I was taught, when you push to gain something, the energy is taken from something else that was meant for you to put in place of what you're asking for. Now, this does not replace the law of manifestation. This is specifically in regards to spell work. So typically, what I do is I'll design a spell to help me with something, such as help me learn, increase creativity, or in this case, what we're going to be building is a talisman to amplify an intent in magic. So, I believe I've got all my just about everything. Okay. As far as ingredients, I'm mod podging a bunch of stuff together, using a little bit of different kinds of magics from different houses, and when you do this, you have to be very, very, very careful. Not all magics mix, not all magics are meant for each other, and if you're doing too much of the same kind of magic from different houses, they could collide in how the magic works for you. So the way I try to build my spells is to use a magic to help another magic sustain. I don't know if that made sense to you, but it makes sense in my brain. I'll be walking you through it anyway. So, what I've done ahead of time that you did not see, and that you will not see in this video, one, I created black salt, and I did this by burning sage and a couple of spells out of my Book of Magic, spell book, and it's similar to the bay leaf spell, where you write what you want on a bay leaf and you burn it to transmutate it and put it out into the universe. It's a similar thing. I took some pages out of my spellbook, I wrote my intent for the magic in the pages, and then I burnt them, released them to the universe. And then I took the ash from said spell and I mixed it with sea salt to create the black ash. There we go. So you did not see that portion of the spell. Let's see, is there any other portions? Oh, the knot magic. Yes. Why am I being with this right now? This is why I like to prepare before videos. So with the knot magic's pretty simple in its principle. You chant. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, it works similar to a rosary. You can chant or a prayer that you repeat as you're creating the knots. To a specific end, of course. Now, what I've done is just to invoke this specific kind of magic. I got my hemp rope. I put 3 knots in it. 3 seems to be the minimum for a lot of things, so it's just a number that I bank on as far as any kind of a minimum amount. And the chant that I used with first knot was, with the first knot I begin the amplification spell. With the second knot, he sieges me, Guardians of El, speaking of you. With the third knot, I complete the amplification spell, and now I call upon the Guardians of El. The rhyme mechanisms are useful in the chants and spells. First off, to be more memorable, but secondly, to have a sense of an artistic nature in it. Magic is very, very much an art form, as much as it's a science. So, let's see, where to start? Oh, and so I pre-did the Black Ash, I pre-did the Knot spell, and I bent my, let's see if I can, focus on it. So basically I bent this piece of copper into some edges. It originally, to resemble lightning bolt, but also to resemble flow, like a river, like a winding snake, like a Caduceus, etc., etc. I'm also going to be using magic, or candle magic, wax from candle. Now for a spell that you plan on recurring, or doing multiple times, I typically like to buy these glass bottle candles, because as I was explained to when I was learning, you want to bathe in the light of the candle as part of the spell. Well, depending on the spell, I suppose. If you're trying to invoke something within you, something to that effect, bathing in the light is the best way, to catch the process of the magic transmuting. So in a sense, like with these bottles, you charge the candle itself. You're also charging the glass. I draw my spells on the outside of the glass using sigils and symbols. So when the light is shining through, it's also shining through on the glass. Now, once the candle is burned out, normally, you would get rid of the glass in whatever way you need to. But in this sense, oh Lord, I got a fire. In this sense, I can reuse the candle glass for future spells. So the original spell becomes sort of a first generation, and the following spells become sort of a next generation effect. And actually, I recently altered a spell, so I needed the effect of the original spell, but I needed the new spell to work through the old spell. So I charged the candle and placed it inside of the glass from the old spell, and let the new spell shine through the old spell, and used the glass as a filter. So to create the base of this, I'll have links to stuff from my Amazon affiliate store in the description below. I have these little bottles, they come with these little nifty quartz. Now I've already pre-crushed all my selenite workable pieces. You want to be careful when you're working with selenite, or especially when you're breaking the selenite up, because selenite dust can be very harmful to you. But I like the selenite because it helps you direct energy, as well as serving as a self-charging base. So not only will the spell, well, in the end you'll see how. Not only will the spell self-charge, but it'll be self-cleansing and virtually uncorruptible. Virtually. Somebody would have to specifically come in with intent and mess with your stuff in order to accomplish such a thing. So you got the selenite, citronine, lupus, red coral, oh jeez, that's gonna smarts. Amethyst, tiger's eye, quartz. Now, I'm not going to go down the specifics as to why I chose these specific stones for the spell. I will say the reason that I chose this specific concoction of gems and crystals is because the roundedness and the versatility that this particular talisman is designed to do. I kind of need a little bit of function on multiple levels on different things. So, okay, the tigers. Do not distracted me. So, and specifically I'm using irregular cut crystals that are usually designed to go on necklaces and stuff, beading wire. But the only ones that I've seen that are cut to a small enough size to be placed inside of a bottle such as this. And as you can see, I'm already having problems finding a piece to fit in here. One of these is going to fit. Aha! Alright, so far we look like this. Ta-da! Alright. Now the next things that are going to take up the most space are going to be Palo Santo. I'm putting my rope from the knot spell. I'm putting my copper in here. Now I used to be very particular about like oh, don't bend it, and don't do this, and don't do that. And, a friend of mine recently told me this. The intention going into it is what counts. If it gets a little messed up during packaging, that's just adding character. It's here on the chest. Alright, I'm dropping in a piece of Palo Santo. You know what? Did I say one? Better make it two. Break off a piece of fresh sage. Oh yeah, you know what I mean by fresh, not burned sage. No, I'm forgetting a critical one ingredient here. I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back. Sorry. I forgot to get this out of the fridge before I started the spell. So, a couple of pieces of ginger root. Ginger root will help just about any spell with take this lighting. There we go. What is going on here? I don't know what is going on with my lighting, guys. There, I think we got it. Alright. So the ginger root works as an application in general. You can carry ginger root in your pocket, or you can use it as a base like we're doing here for spells. It's very, very helpful. I also got a little bit of wax from the spell that we already did. It's going to be fitting into the bottom here. Next, take a small piece of parchment paper, and typically with magic, I just like to use runes, sigils, as a form of communication because the energy that is about it is malleable. A symbol can represent many things, where a word represents much fewer. So in the use of symbols in magic, it's usually best in that essence to incorporate sigil symbols for communication. Okay, so like I told you before, usually the minimum that I like to work with is 3, pretty much anything. So, because of the nature of the spell that I need it to accomplish, 3 runes I'm going to be using are Freewood Near, Protection, and then Protection specifically against magics. Black magics set against you. We're just going to roll it up. Like a dude. We're going to get this buggy in here. Don't let him fool you, half the fun's making it fit. something gets a little muddled up in the packaging. It's really more about the intent. Alright, so now my crap is all such. Now, what to do with the empty spaces? If you're a Pink Floyd fan, you get that. I'm putting a little bit of black salt from my previous spell. Fair enough of an amount that I'm not wasting I'm not using in excess what I don't have to, but enough to carry a charge. I'm going to use sea salt. As far as magic is concerned, I typically use sea salt in anywhere I have to use salt. Iodized salt is processed. You really don't want to use, you want to stay away from as many processed materials as you can. So for instance, don't use plastic bottles, use glass. In a case of like a hex bag or something, use a spell bag, medicine bag, you do not want to carry it in plastic. Just making a little funnel, pouring a little sea salt, and pouring sea salt into the bottom. This also serves as a filler, so that your stuff isn't just willy-nilly floating around at the bottom, clickety-clacking around and stuff. I use very scientific terms, thank you. Back in the container. Waste not, what not. Final ingredient, Himalayan pink salt. Generous amount, but this is the most finely ground product amongst all of them, so I typically put it in last so that it takes up as much space, filler. It's pretty cheap, abundant, and it looks good. Like I said, to fill in all the spaces. Not a lot of shaking going around. That's good. It will settle at some point. Alright, so we cork it back up. I like to pack it in there pretty tight when I'm doing the end part of the spell. And then the way we're going to seal it in is from using more candle wax from the freshly burned candle wax spell, which we pour very slowly. The wax will dry just enough as it's coming out. Be solid, but it's still going to take some time to cool off. Now, if I were going to do a piece of leather cord or something to be able to hang this from, me specifically, this is going to be for use in my car. I'm actually going to put this in my car to do what I need it to do. So I don't require anything to hang from. It's just going to simply float freely in my car, under one of my seats actually. So normally if I was going to hang it or something, I would tie the rope around the neck of the bottle, and then I would pour the wax. That way the wax kind of seals up not only the cord, but it seals up the leather cord and everything else too. So now the spell is complete. We have a amplification spell with an intention spell. So the intent being the runic symbols and stuff that we put on the parchment paper, that's your intent. You went inside the bottle. The small crystals were there to amplify, in a sense, the use of the spell. The selenite is in there to cleanse the other magics in and recharge the other magics. Or to direct the magics and to charge the magics. And then the salt, the various salts, are used for the cleansing of the magics itself. So essentially, with very minimal work, this is an active spell, a passive spell, and a self-cleansing spell. So I like to multi-use things, and this is why I use different kinds of magics to aid in the steps, and doing multiple steps. This lighting isn't driving me nuts. So, anyway, that is my spell design for this particular talisman. If you've got questions or anything like that, feel free to go into the comments. If you like what you saw, there is a link to PayPal. We take donations, whatever donations you would like, acceptable. And I haven't figured out the rules to it yet, so when I do, we're just going to do a contest on the YouTube channel, or maybe the Facebook, and I'm going to have a few of these made, probably 5 or 10, and we'll give them away. Yeah, if you guys want some of my magics, make sure to follow the link down below to the Facebook page, and we'll see you there. Remember, just be a good person.